Welcome to Fall 2024. Hey everyone, welcome to Princess of Gay. I'm your host Connie, and today we are here with another First Impression Showdown. We are going to be focusing specifically this time on the Fall 2024 anime. The anime season has started, and there's a bunch of new anime, and there's a few I specifically wanted to check out for this. See, there's others that are out that it's like, oh, not sure if I'm interested, but if I am, I know I'm not going to want to react to it, like Dragon Ball Daima. It's like maybe I'll check it out, but I'm not going to react to it. I already know that off the bat. Dragon Ball is just not something I would want to. But then there's other anime that have come out this season that's like, okay, I could maybe potentially see this happening. It's a possibility. And so that's why I wanted to give these a shot, because that's kind of the point of a first impression. But if you are new to the channel, let me explain that real quick. So a first impression reaction on this channel basically means I check out the first episode, sometimes but rarely two, to determine if I want to continue reacting to the series, watching it on my own time, or drop it. It's always one of those three options, and it's just a way for me to check out a series without having to dedicate myself to the series as a whole. Especially for shows that I'm just either not sure what I'm going to think about or not sure if it's something I want to do as a reaction specifically. And that's where we get with today's reaction. So this is an interesting set because there's two of these that I have context and knowledge for, and then two of them I don't. So let's talk about them in the order that we're going to do them. So we have Orb on the Movement of the Earth. I know nothing about this, but I saw like a screenshot at one point. It might have even been from when the trailer was released. I don't remember. But it's like I'm kind of vaguely interested. I don't even remember what was on the screenshot. I just remember I was vaguely interested. And so I decided it could be a first impression. So this one is like almost no knowledge on whatsoever. The second one we're going to be getting to is Trillion Game. Again, this I know pretty much nothing about. I don't know what the plot is or anything. I saw a still image of a single character and it's like, oh, this character is exceptionally hot. I want to see what this show is just because of that. Hey, I'm a simple girl. Sometimes that'll do it for me. But the next two are ones that I actually have some knowledge about. So first off, our third one will be Sword Art Online Alternative Gun Gale Online Season 2. I know, quite a mouthful. And you may be wondering, wait, a Sword Art Online series? Hear me out. Sword Art Online Alternative, SAOA, is like insanely better. Night and day levels of better than any of the mainline Sword Art Online crap. Mainline Sword Art Online is crap. It's sometimes entertaining crap, but it's crap. It's not good. And I think most people agree on that. Though some people do say Alicization is fairly okay. But yeah, it's just generally not that good. There's some good stuff to it, but generally speaking. But Sword Art Online Alternative is a completely separate story that doesn't focus on Kirito at all. The main character is a girl named Karen Kahuizoki, I believe her name is. And she goes into the Gun Gale Online game and has to deal with stuff in there. It's really good, really interesting, well written, great characters, better in every possible way. Now, the reason why I'm doing a first impression for the first episode of Season 2 is because, one, it's been a while since I've seen Season 1, And because of that, I don't know if I'm going to want to do this as a reaction series or if I'm just going to watch it on my own time. And that's kind of what we're here to figure out. And the second option, or the second reason, is because I don't know, like, after how long it's been since season one came out, if this is going to hold up to season one. It's been so long that it might be hard to really live up to that potential again. Though it's been done before. There have been shows that have come back after a long ass time and still got it. Durarara is a great example of that. But the fourth and final one we're going to react to today is Uzumaki. Uzumaki is the new Junji Ito series, and yeah, I like Junji Ito stories. I like the Junji Ito collection anime, even though a lot of people didn't like that. I very much did. And so I'm interested to see this new take on it. I didn't see the second anime, which was, I don't remember what it was called. It was, there's Junji Ito collection. There was another one that also had Junji Ito in the name. And then now this is the third Junji Ito series, and this one's just called Uzumaki. So yeah, those are the four we will be checking out. I don't really have any big predictions on what I'm going to end up thinking about them because, like I said, it's kind of hard to say with the ones I don't know. And then with the ones that I have a little more knowledge of, I don't know how they're going to be executed in terms of SAOA. It's like, how is it going to be executed after so long away from the first season? And with Uzumaki, it's a completely different iteration, and I'm just unsure of how that's going to work for me personally. I've heard it's very different from Junji Ito collection, and that could be good or bad, so I'm just not sure. I guess we're gonna just check these out, see what we have in store. For those who are also new and haven't seen one of these first impression showdowns, especially, what this basically is I'm going to react to all four. I'm going to record each reaction one at a time and record their separate afterthoughts one at a time. So the afterthoughts are going to be split into sections, and you'll see that on the progress bar. You'll see the different chapters for each section. I'm going to record the afterthoughts for each one after I record each reaction. So it's going to be like Orb, I record the reaction to Orb, then I record the afterthoughts to Orb before I move on to the next reaction. So that's how it's going to be organized. You can watch any of them. They'll be linked in the description below due to copyright reasons and all. You'll be able to watch all of the reactions, any of the reactions, and you can skip to that part in the afterthoughts for whichever ones you want to hear more of my thoughts on and whatnot. It's the easiest and best way of organizing this from what I've found. Plus, that way you don't have to try to look in a single reaction video to try and find the one you're looking for. They'll all be in their own separate videos. Makes it a lot easier for you guys too. That being said, we're going to get into this and see what these four shows have in store for us and see if any of them are something I'd like to continue reacting to in the future. So let's get this going. Cutting in here real quick to remind you of all the awesome content we have on the channel. Between Monday and Friday, we have a plethora of awesome series reactions with 2 on Wednesday. We have movie reactions every Saturday and Sunday. I do pre-record them during the week, but upload them on the weekend. And we have gaming content over on the Princess of Gaming channel. We have Baldur's Gate 3 every single day, Horizon Forbidden West every Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, and Friday, Beyond Two Souls on Wednesdays and Sundays, and Poppy Playtime every Saturday. And don't forget to click that link in the description to follow it to today's reaction. I do redirect everything on the channel just due to copyright. And on top of that, don't forget to click the subscribe button to subscribe to the channel and the like button to help support. It means a lot, and I thank you so much for tuning in. That being said, let's get to today's reaction. And we are back, and we'll begin with the afterthoughts portion on orb and or on the movement of the Earth. Orb on the movement of the Earth. We'll begin with those afterthoughts in 3, 2, 1, now. As the great scholar Jesse Pinkman once said, "Yeah, science." That is what this series seems to be. Science, astronomy, and the not necessarily discovery of, but the opportunity and desire to prove in the heliocentric model of the universe, or of the Milky Way galaxy at the very least. The idea of within a world, a town, a city, a land, whatever you want to call it, that is exceptionally and kind of horrifically religious. This 12-year-old boy and a heretic older man are going to put science first and upset the hold that the church has over society. I'm fucking in. Like, that is just the most random idea for an anime I think I've heard in a while. And anime is exceptionally diverse. Like, you can watch like 10 different anime and none of them will be anywhere near the same. There's so many different styles, concepts, themes, genres, etc. that anime tackles. And I've seen anime that are very focused on economics, like Spice and Wolf. And there's various ones that are focused on religion. There's ones that are focused on science and technology and all kinds of stuff. I've seen stuff like that before. But this is such a specific area of science that has probably been mentioned in various other anime here and there. But I don't think I at least know of another anime series or even maybe movie that is specifically about this and specifically presented in a way that is like the idea of actively turning against the church specifically in order to study this and find out the truth. It is a very specific kind of thing that does appeal to me. Because here's the thing. I grew up, I took astronomy classes in school. I have always been kind of fascinated by that. Never to like an amazing degree, never to the degree that Raphael and Hubert are here. I wouldn't like go out and look at the stars or anything, but mind you, I never lived in a place where that would be entirely reasonable. All of the pollution and light and everything kind of ruins that in most places, unless you're like out in the country or something. But I've always had like a kind of vague interest. And on top of that, I have religious trauma. The church has fucked me up in a lot of ways, and there is a lot I honestly despise about the church. And keep in mind, I'm a Christian. I believe in God. But I also understand that the church as an institution is inherently corrupt. Not only corrupt, but absolutely fucked. In a way to where, honestly, you could call them evil. The things that the church has done in the past and even in the present is so insanely bad that it's wild that they can like stand there and call themselves, followers of the message of Christ when everything that they have done is so uh, antithetical to that. It's so wild. The church has been insanely fucked up for so long. I mean, fucking burning heretics at the stake because they didn't align with your faith is so actively evil. It's not funny. It's so actively bad. There is no defending that. That's so fucked up. And this is real shit that happened. Real shit. You know it was Christians who performed the Salem witch trials, right? They're the ones who sentenced all of these women to death, right? You understand that. They are behind some of the worst atrocities this world has seen. And they're not going to admit to that. No, and even the ones who do are going to say, like, oh, but we're not like that anymore. Bitch, you kind of are. As a whole, the church as an institution is still very fucked up. And like 90% of churches out there still believe and enforce horrifically evil ideals. It's not that different. The only difference is there's like not like burning people at the stake and shit like that anymore. It at least for the most part. There might be some places where shit like that still happens. But it's like all this evil stuff has been done through Christianity. And so it's like a series that is actively like not turning its back against the idea of God or anything, but specifically showcasing how fucked up uh, religion and Christianity has been, and showing how it's, for most of its history, been about control and bigotry and, forcing your ideology on others. It's like a series that has a massive focus on basically giving the middle finger to the church is something that very much connects with me. Because as I mentioned, I'm a Christian, and like I said, I don't like the church as an institution. The specific church I go to currently is already basically giving a middle finger to the institution of the church by being excessively queer positive, excessively leftist in its ideologies and beliefs and teachings, etc., etc. And it's because of finding an open and affirming church like this that it's literally the only reason I still go to church. I was literally at the verge of leaving church altogether before finding this one, because I'd been completely disillusioned by these people who claim to be followers of God not following the word of God. And it's just it just completely like turned me away from that kind of thing. Like I said, if not for finding this specific church, I would have completely left it behind. And honestly, probably left religion behind altogether. This is really the only thing. This church is really the only thing that like has kept me as a Christian. um, and I still, even while like in this church and everything, I make no secret how much I hate the church as an institution. Um, so I am really for this. Now, Raphael as a character, let's talk about him, is a really interesting character because I kind of thought he was going to be one way at first, but then it kind of like took him in a different direction than I expected. When it starts like showing him as, this good boy kind of thing, I'm like, oh, he's bullshitting. It's like he's too perfect. And then it reveals he's bullshitting, and it reveals why he's doing so. He's doing so to have a comfortable life. He grew up as an orphan. He was given this chance, and he's doing whatever is most rational in order to preserve his opportunity to live comfortably. Which, fair. But I'm thinking at this point, like, okay, so he's a schemer. He's probably going to end up being like this, not necessarily bad guy, but is going to like be constantly fucking with everyone and kind of be a bit of a dick. Honestly, I thought the other kid, the one who was like just super nice and honestly reminded me of Gon from Hunter x Hunter, the other one in the class, I thought he was going to be the main character. I thought Raphael was going to be like maybe a rival, you could say. Um, but instead, it's like Raphael's the main character, and you find out no, he's just trying to survive, and he doesn't necessarily like. Well, I mean, I'm not saying he doesn't believe in God or the church or anything, but he's not like super invested in it. In fact, it's made very clear he likes astronomy more. But then you have this teacher who is ominous as fuck, this professor who took him in, who's basically saying, oh, you're going to study theology? Well, you can't study astronomy at all anymore. You have to completely leave that behind. Because that it goes against God or something. And it's soon made clear, like, what the issue is by the end, because it's like, oh, the teachings of a heliocentric universe go entirely against God, against the church, at least. And he doesn't want him getting involved in something that would lead him to that idea. So the entire reason that Raphael was going into theology was probably kind of like he was kind of probably manipulated into that through this professor in the first place. So yeah, kind of makes a lot of sense when you think about it. Also, when we saw like the person being burned at the pyre for a second, I thought it was going to be the other kid. Because he said that line about like saying Raphael's almost like a god, and like the tension in the room just shot up to astronomical levels. It's like there was a moment for me where I was almost thinking it was him when it showed the face of the burning body, but I don't think it was. I think it would have told us and made a point of it if it were. Raphael didn't seem to recognize him, so. Um, but if that had happened, I would have probably been like, ooh, shit. That would have been dark as fuck. And the thing is, the church would absolutely do that. In this time, like, they would absolutely do that. They wouldn't care that he's a kid. They never cared about that shit. They killed children. It's like if the crime was the crime to them, then that's all that mattered. At the very least, he would have been imprisoned for like being a heretic once, like Hubert was. But and speaking of Hubert's obviously going to be a mentor figure to Raphael. Their relationship starts off quite rocky, obviously, with Hubert having to threaten him, but it's very clear that he's going to become Raphael's mentor, and they're going to actually form a really close bond. He's probably going to even become a father figure to Raphael, I could imagine. Not to mention, they're both going to study astronomy together, and that's going to help Raphael learn a lot more about how wrong everything he's been taught is. So yeah, it's like, this is very interesting. This is very interesting. And I'm really curious to see how dark it gets. We saw like a torture scene with this guy getting his nails ripped off, and Jesus, that bothers the shit out of me. Like I said in the reaction, even when I like cut my nails too short, it can hurt, and it's like I've never luckily had a nail ripped off, but it's like my sister I know has, and even she's talked about like it hurting and everything, and I've seen again, I've seen multiple anime and stuff where this has happened, and the most notable for me is Higurashi, the first place I ever saw that at. And I've been like absolutely petrified by that since. It is one of the like freakiest bits of torture that I've seen in anything. Anything to do with the eyes, I've mentioned before, freaks me the fuck out. But like ripping someone's nails off does exactly the same thing for me. It's the same amount of cringe and pain I feel like just seeing that. No matter if it's animated, live action, does not matter. It freaks me the fuck out. Um, but yeah, I'm really kind of into this. I'm really kind of into just the concept of this. The execution just outside the concept is pretty good so far too. Like it was it was pretty entertaining. Nothing about it was boring. It didn't feel slow. It kept my attention, and I'm actually a little surprised at that because I feel like a series like this normally would kind of bore me a little. Like it's not just because oh it's not an action anime, it's not a battle shonen or no, not because of stuff like that. It just there's a lot of anime out there where it's like oh it's about science. That's kind of boring. Um, but it's like, no, this isn't boring. It's interesting. And I think having it be like very much like turning your back against the church and showing how fucking terrifying the church could be. I think that helps because again of the my connection to that kind of thought pattern. So, I think that's definitely helping matters. But either way, I think it's just interesting as well. So, this is definitely a series I'm going to continue reacting to in the future. I don't know when. As usual, it's going to be put onto my list. We might get to it sooner rather than later. We might get to it later. It depends. It's going to depend on a few factors. It might depend on just when I end up rolling it on the randomizer wheel. We'll see. But I do plan on getting to more of this in the future. I'm very curious to see how this goes. And yeah, hopefully it ends up continuing to be this interesting and fascinating and, keeps giving a big middle finger to the church because that's always a plus. But tell me your thoughts down in the comments below. And don't be afraid, by the way, just because I'm Christian, do not be afraid to shit talk the church. Honestly, please do. If you've had bad experiences with the church or know people who have, please feel free to share them. I am like that is honey to me. Sounds really weird coming from someone who is a self-admitted and very open Christian, but like I explained it, like I said, I have religious trauma. I hate the church as an institution, so yeah, please do. That all being said, thank you for tuning in to this portion of the Afterthoughts. If you want to check out another one of the reactions and Afterthoughts, the links to the reactions are down below. The Afterthoughts will continue. But for the time being, if this is all you've checked out, thank you for tuning in. And yeah, we'll get to the other ones as well. Hope to see you there. And we are back with the Trillion game portion of these Afterthoughts. And we'll begin with spoilers in 3, 2, 1, now. So I'm conflicted on this one. Because there's a part of me that is telling me, like, I would rather watch this on my own time. But there's also a part of me that says, hot young characters who are just insanely interesting, exceptionally charismatic, in terms of Haru at least, and a plot that seems pretty unique, but also familiar enough to where it's like, oh, this is something I can kind of get behind. It's not like anything spectacular, but it's something that feels comfortable enough for me to really sink my teeth into. And I had been sitting here, like after recording the reaction for a minute. I went and grabbed the mail and everything, the packages that arrived during the reaction. Sorry about the dog barking. But I went and grabbed that, and I was thinking about it, and I'm trying to think to myself, what vibe do I feel this is giving more strongly here? Do I feel like this series gives me the vibe of something that would be really fun to share with you all? Or is this something that I would just rather watch at my own pace, go through it, enjoy it, but to my own level, to a reasonable level for myself? And thinking about it, I think it's the latter. And that's nothing against the series, of course, or the episode. It's not to say like, oh, it's not good enough for me to react to. No, it's a different kind of vibe. That's the thing. When it comes to shows I want to react to, it has to be something that I want to put forth effort into, recording each week. Something that it's going to be like, oh, this is interesting enough for me that I want to continue checking it out, not just on my own time, but specifically, I want to put forth the effort to record my reaction, to put on this performance of sorts for you guys to share it with me. Because it is a performance of sorts. When I'm sitting here reacting to something, I've talked about this before, I don't act the way I normally would if I'm just watching it on my own. Because even though my reactions are genuine, I'm not like exaggerating to any great degree. I do have to, react in ways I don't normally. I'm a very reserved person normally, and when I'm just sitting here watching something, if I find something funny, I might like slightly chuckle, even if it's super funny, but I won't outwardly laugh as much. Even if I find it funny enough to do so, that's just not how I naturally physically react. If something makes me super sad, like yeah, I'll cry, but I don't get like as down in the dumps as I might on a reaction. Because when I'm doing this, I'm aware that you all are watching this reaction. Anyone who might be doing so. And as such, because of that, I don't exaggerate my reactions to things. I just like put them on display. I take what I'm feeling on the inside and like push it to the outside. If that makes any sense. I'm acting out my feelings. That's a way to put it. But yeah, with this series, I think this is something that I would rather just sit back, relax to, and not have to worry about putting on that reaction to. I think that would be better. But let's actually talk about what I thought about the episode. So we have our two main characters. We have Haru, who is exceptionally charismatic, but has literally zero technical know-how. He knows nothing about technology. It is all gibberish to him. He is a master of bullshitting. He is a master of convincing people that he knows what he's doing, but he actually doesn't. He is like, in D&D terms, he put all of his points into charisma and literally nothing into anything else. That's all he has. Meanwhile, we have Gaku, who is insanely technical. He is so savvy in the technical department that he's practically a genius. At like 14, 15 years old as like a middle schooler. And again, that's figuring low. Or that's figuring like if he were at the end of middle school, which considering they were talking about getting into high school at that point, it's presumed reasonable. Um, he's already smart enough with technology that he can hack into a security camera and delete the footage of Haru punching some dudes out. I mean, at 14, 15 years old, I couldn't tell you how to use a computer for the most part at all. Like, I could use it for the most basic shit. And even nowadays, like, I could not tell you that. And I'm more savvy than I used to be. It's like that's something that you have to put forth a lot of studying into, a lot of active work to make sure you understand. There's a lot that goes into that. Like a lot of the stuff he was talking about, like WEP, it's like I don't know what the fuck that means. I could not tell you. A lot of people think that just because I'm on the computer a lot means I know a lot about computers and tech and stuff. I very much don't. I am not technologically savvy. I just know the very bare bones basics of how to use a computer, which I think mostly anyone can know. It's just the most simplistic stuff. It's like, oh, this button turns on the computer. This button goes to the internet. It's like stuff like that. I can do that. I can do like some minor stuff with like different programs. But like I'm not even like the best with certain programs. The reason why I use the most basic bitch form of like Windows Movie Maker for my editing is because it's something I can understand. It's something that I am able to comprehend how to use. Also, a lot of the programs also are just, expensive, and this is free. So, there's that too, mind you. But yeah, Gaku is basically a genius when it comes to that stuff, but he like put nothing into charisma. He has no charisma whatsoever. In fact, he's kind of negative charisma. Like he has disadvantage on charisma. Again, going with D&D terms. His charisma is actively bad. He's clumsy. He's constantly excessively nervous. He can't form coherent sentences and whatnot when he's like in an interview situation. He he is terrible with that aspect. But because of that, because he and Haru balance each other out perfectly, working as a duo, they are kind of perfect for this plan of theirs, or of Haru's mostly. The plan is to take over this dragon company and to make $1 trillion. Hence, trillion game. Their entire goal is to make that money just because they can. Just out of the sheer idea of doing so. And as was put, I mean, if you make $1 trillion, you can buy anything. There is that aspect of it. So yeah, it's an interesting concept. And we have this like president's daughter as well. Um, Kirihime was what they called her, I guess, but it's like Kirika, I think. Um, she is one super fucking gorgeous, but everyone in this anime is like practically hot. It's just the way they're drawn. Um, but she is very interesting as a character and is very clearly going to help them out. I just don't know to what degree and how and whatnot. But I'm very curious. It's again, it's a good first episode and it got me very interested. But this is definitely, I think, something that I'm going to rather want to watch on my own time. Something that I think would be better for just my own pacing and my own enjoyment as I go, rather than trying to kind of like force myself to keep up with it week to week. Plus, this way I also would rather get to it a little sooner, um, rather than have to wait till whenever and or try to force it into a spot early. I think that this would be the best option for this. So yeah, I'm gonna watch this one on my own time. I might talk about it on Discord. So if you're not in the Discord server and want to know thoughts, maybe I'll talk about it occasionally there or post like shots or something from it or whatnot. But yeah, this is gonna be one I'm gonna watch on my own time. But I would love to hear your thoughts. So tell me in the comments below, what did you think of this first episode of Trillion Game? And thank you for tuning into this portion of the Afterthoughts. If you were just here for Trillion Game, well, congrats, you made it. I hope you enjoyed. If you're here for other stuff, I hope you enjoy checking that one, those reactions out too, whichever ones you might want to check out. And each of these Afterthoughts will, of course, accompany those. But that being said, yeah, if this was all you're here for, thank you for tuning in. And either way, if you're here for more, I'll see you in the next one. And we are back, and we'll begin with the Sword Art Online Alternative Gun Gale Online Season 2 Afterthoughts, including spoilers, in 3, 2, 1, now. So this was basically to get this episode was basically to get us back into the swing of things, remind us of where things left off and how things are now, yada yada yada. We have all of our main characters back. We're going into the third squad jam to fulfill the promise to the Amazons. We're going to have Pito and Len team up with their teams again. And yeah, again, this is just to kind of reintroduce everything as well as give a little bit of a recap without it feeling too exposition-y, and setting up for what's about to start with this next arc. And I think it succeeds in that. Like I said, it wasn't too exposition-y. It felt very well handled. This is clearly a second season, though. It reminds you of a few like notable things that you would want to remember, but it doesn't hold your hand. It's like, this is definitely for people who have seen the first season, obviously. You're not going to go into this expecting to just understand everything right off the bat. And there's a lot I don't remember. There's a lot that don't quite recall still. But it reminded me of enough to where I feel like I can still like get the hang of it. And watching this, I felt like I was right back into the swing of things. Even though it's been 6 years. Because I watched the first season when it first aired and have not watched it again since. It has been 6 years. It's like that's the same amount of time it was between seasons 3 and 4 of Wakfu. So it's like it's another show where it's just been a long-ass time between seasons. And I'm glad we're finally here. I'm glad we finally got this. I'm very excited to be back. I'm very excited that everything is seemingly the same. Like, visually, it looks about the same. There's not much difference, and definitely not enough difference to really make an impact. I believe it's the same studio. It's like a little better animated from what we can tell. I mean, not that we get to see a lot of action in this, but from the little bit we did see at the beginning, it looks like it's definitely improved. But again, not like a huge amount. And again, it kind of reminds me of Durarara in that regard. Because Durarara had a long time between the original season and then the X2 seasons when those started. And it still looked about the same. They didn't try to like improve it too much because they wanted to keep the feeling, the vibe of the original season. And wanted to make sure that it still like felt like the same thing without coming across as too different in its appearance. I've seen shows that did that. And one of the big examples I can think of off the top of my head is The Devil's a Part-Timer. That was one of the reasons why I could not for the life of me get into season 2 of that. They changed the art style pretty drastically. It felt like an entirely new show, and I think it was because it was a different studio. But it felt like an entirely different show because of that. The original first season had so much great expressionism that was completely lost with the new style. And there were other issues, mind you, with that as well that just made me completely disinterested in continuing that, which is why I dropped season two. And I was not the only one. I had found out after I ended up dropping it, I ended up finding out that I was very much not the only one dissatisfied with it. It just, it was not good. It went downhill. And it really sucks because I did really like season one. But it just, between the visual changes and other issues, such as with the story and everything, it didn't feel like the same show that I really loved at the start. So, yeah, it was just, it wasn't good. But this very much seems, again, more like a Durarara situation, where it's like they're not trying to make it feel like a different show. It's the same style of art and animation. Everything feels the same. The quality isn't too much higher to where it just feels out of place and way too different to fit. You could go from watching season one to this season without any trouble in regards to that. It wouldn't feel out of place to do so, at least based on this first episode. I think it's all the same voice actors as well. It sounds like it's all them, from what I can tell. Again, it's been years, but they all sound right from what I remember. No issues on that front. And yeah, from what I remember at the very end of the season, Karen had obviously already deduced who Pito was in real life. She was Elsa. She's this celebrity singer, I believe she is. And they got to meet face to face and all. And Elsa kissed her, and they ended up going back to being friends in the game and everything after having had a little bit of a falling apart due to kind of being enemies and everything in the second squad jam. But we got to see like how it all worked out, and now we see the fallout of that. We see that they're back to working as a team again, and we get to see them on good terms again, which is always good. I don't think like they're, from what I can tell, they're not actually together. And I want to make something clear because if you don't know this series, one, you're probably really confused in the first place watching this, but Elsa is not young. At least not like super younger than Karen. They're both about the same age. They're both around 20. And Elsa's just really little. You only see her in the one scene in this where she's like in the car with M's. I can't remember his actual name, but the guy who plays M, who is her manager and everything. You see her in the car and she's very little. She looks like she could be a kid, but she's not. She's about the same age as Karen, which is again about 20. Um, it's something that I was not 100% sure on, like back in the day, back when the season one came out. But I have found out that that is the case. And her manager, is his guy again. I can't remember his name, but he's around the same age too. Maybe a little bit older. But yeah, and I believe Karen's friend is the same age as her too, so they're all basically around the same age. Um, but yeah, it's so just in case, like, because I think I mentioned, um, I mentioned the fact that they kissed, but I also I think I mentioned like kind of supporting the ship, and I say kind of because it's like there was some definite fuel for that ship even before the kiss and everything, but it also feels like seeing them as friends is perfectly reasonable rather than any romantic sense. But I wanted to clear that up just to make sure you understood. Because I do kind of ship them. I think they're kind of cute together. Um, Because the thing with SAO, and this has been shown since like the first season, is that like you can kind of be whoever you want to be in this world. You just make your avatar and everything. Because Karen is like this like really tall adult woman with dark hair, like this dark blue hair and everything, and her character avatar Len is this super chibi cutie pie who is nothing like Karen in real life. It's like that's kind of the big point. That's kind of the idea here. They can be anyone. And I think in the Gun Gale Online season of the original SAO, wasn't Kirito like a girl? Wasn't his avatar a girl in that season? So it's like, yeah, you can literally be anyone in this kind of world. It's just like playing any kind of video game. You can play any kind of character you want. Like you start up Baldur's Gate 3, it's like you can make your character anyone no matter what you look like. There are people who make their characters look as much like them as possible, but there's a lot of people who just like go like, "Oh, I'm going to be like an absolute fantasy of myself." And that's awesome. And I love that you can do that. Karen made her character super short and cutesy because she is very self-conscious about her height. She was extremely self-conscious about that, so she wanted to kind of like see herself in this kind of cutesy small way because it's something she's never been able to be. So it's like there's definite like reasons to that. And as someone who, you know, grew up playing girls as often as I could in video games before coming to realize there is a reason for that, I can relate. Seriously, ever since Pokemon Crystal, like the first time you could play as a female character in a Pokemon game, I have played as girls in so many games whenever given the option. And it's like, coming to my adulthood, I realized there's a reason for that. I am a girl. It's like, oh, I've been trying to tell myself this shit my entire life. And I just wouldn't listen because I'm a dumbass. Uh, it's fun to look back on, like, all the dumb bullshits in your life. But yeah, this was really entertaining, and I've kind of been mulling it around as I've been talking about this. Like, do I want to react to this, or would I rather watch this on my own time? Because I watched season one on my own time. I didn't I never reacted to season one. But I think I want to react to season two. I think it's one of those cases where it's like, I think this could be fun to react to. And I don't know how much of an audience this would get. I don't know how many of you might have seen season one. But from what we can tell, it kind of told you what you needed to know. You could probably go into this without having seen season one and be mostly fine. It's definitely made for people who have seen the first season, and it's not going to like hold your hand through it. But it's told you enough to where you get it. Like, you understand that they have this kind of like respectful rivalry with the Amazons, and that they're trying to fulfill a bet they made with each other to face each other in the next squad jam, and find out who's truly on top between them. You understand that there's these other groups that have like beef in certain ways and stuff. It reminds you of what you need to know, or tells new people watching, it's like, oh yeah, you could probably pick it up here. But it's obviously going to make a lot more sense just in general if you have seen the first season. Like, if you haven't, you're not going to necessarily understand what Len said when she's talking about P-Chan, which is, by the way, the name of her gun, getting destroyed. So just as context, P-Chan was destroyed in season one, at the end of season one. It was actually this very big deal, and it was actually surprisingly emotional. Like, it's like, oh my god, you're making me cry for a fucking gun. Why and how? But then again, One Piece made me cry for a fucking boat, so, to be fair. Um, it was more of what the gun meant to Len rather than the actual gun itself. Because unlike Going Merry from One Piece, it's like the gun doesn't have a personality or anything. It's literally just a gun. But it's because it's the meaning that's given to it by Len throughout the first season that it makes it mean as much as it does. But yeah, it's like there's things like that you won't understand. It didn't really explain it here, but yeah, either way. So yeah, I think I'm gonna react to this in the future. I don't know when it's gonna be added to the rotation, added to the wheel. At some point in the future, we'll end up getting to it. Could be sooner than later. Could be later rather than sooner. Don't know, but we will see. Either way, thank you so much for tuning in. If you were just here for Sword Art Online, Gun Gale Online Season 2, then thank you so much for tuning in. Hope you enjoyed. If you're here for other stuff as well, hope you enjoy everything you're here for. And yeah, let's move on to the next one. And we are back with the Uzumaki portion of these afterthoughts. If you are not here for Uzumaki, you're on the wrong portion of the afterthoughts. If you are here for it, we will begin with spoilers in 3, 2, 1, now. So some people might refer to this as a bad take. I call it a difference in opinion. I didn't like this. And it's not the story so much, though I'll get to that as well. I didn't like the animation. And I know this is a bad take because I know people have been praising the animation. Or, again, difference of opinion. But people are going to see it as a bad take. This was trying so hard to just emulate Junji Ito's style that it didn't feel like it was necessary. Here's the thing. An adaptation of a work, no matter whether it's you're adapting a manga to an anime, a book to a movie to a video game, no matter what, when you're adapting a work, you're supposed to adapt it. That doesn't mean have it be exactly the same. That's not adapting it. Adapting a work means that you have to make it fit with the medium you're adapting it to. It has to make sense in the execution, in the concept, in the just way it's executed. This pretty much comes across as, why aren't you just reading the manga? Like, if you want it to look exactly like the manga, just read the manga. Because that's all the visuals are. It's so focused on emulating the style and look of Junji Ito's artwork that it feels out of place as an anime. The animation is so off and weird, and I know that some people might say, "Oh, that's the point. It's Junji Ito. It's supposed to be weird and off and creepy." But it's like it's not off in a creepy way. It doesn't feel like it's well animated. It feels like it's very stilted and odd. Certain scenes, it's like it looks like it looks so like how do I explain this? Poorly animated is the wrong way to put it, but it looks like it's like not finished. It looks like it's like the effort wasn't put forward to make it complete, and it comes across as very unnatural, and again, not in a creepy way, like I think is what they were probably going for, but in a way to where it's like I feel like I'm watching like some like random GIF that I found online rather than actual animation. It doesn't feel like it's fully animated. It feels like they took the pages of the manga and like made a motion comic more than an actual anime. The voice acting is fine. I had no issue with any of the voice acting, but the animation is so off-putting that it just takes me out of the experience. It breaks my immersion. It's too close to the manga to feel like an anime. And that's my issue. Like I said, when you're adapting a work, you need to make it adapted to the medium you're putting it in. Changes need to be made to make it work, to make it fit, to make it feel natural. Sorry for the lighting thing, by the way. It's that time of day, and the light is like peering in through like a break in the curtains at the top, and it's just hitting my face at the right point to be annoying. But yeah, sorry about that. But yeah, it's like the animation, again, it just feels like the comic was like made to move rather than it was adapted into a work. And because of that, it makes it feel like I'm not watching an anime. It makes it feel like I'm reading like someone's reading the manga to me. And like you know like those books where it's like the not pop up exactly, but it's where you pull the like things and like a character's like eyes might move side to side when you pull the little tab on the side of the page. It reminds me of that. There were even a number of scenes where like that's all that was happening in the shot, where it's like the eyes were just spinning, and the rest of the frame was like just a close up that wasn't doing anything. It didn't feel like it was fully animated. It felt like someone was manipulating like one of those kind of uh like tab books. I don't know what they're called. Again, it's not really a pop-up book because there was nothing like popping up. That's not kind of the vibe that I'm going for with that kind of thing. I'm talking about the books where it's again, you pull out the tab and like the you pull the tab in and out, and like the eyes would move or something would move like that. I hope you know what I'm talking about. I saw those books a lot when I was a kid. I don't really think I see them anymore, but um, it reminds me of that more than actual animation, and that's not a good thing because again, it breaks my immersion. It breaks the oh, excuse me. It breaks the feeling of me watching an anime. And like yeah, it may emulate the style better. It may feel more accurate in its visual representation than say something like the Junji Ito collection. But at least the Junji Ito collection felt like I was watching an anime. At least it was keeping me immersed within the visuals. Like whether you or not you say it was like super accurate to the dark style of Junji Ito's drawings or not, at least you knew it was an anime. Again, like you tell me this was like a motion comic that someone put on a independent site online, I would believe you. If you tell me this is a professionally animated anime series, I honestly wouldn't believe that if I didn't know it was the case. And that's not a good thing. And again, I know I might be in the minority here. In fact, I can tell you I more than likely am. I can tell you probably very little, if anyone, agrees with me on this. And I know that's going to be the case. I know this is going to be a very, very unpopular opinion. But keep in mind, I'm someone who doesn't like or doesn't like manga. I don't like reading manga because I don't like it as a medium. I think it just I can't get immersed in it. And again, I've explained I don't know why. I could not tell you why that's the case, but I can't get immersed in it. I don't feel emotion when reading a manga compared to watching an anime. Scenes from an anime that make me cry, if I read the manga equivalent, do nothing to me. I feel no emotion when reading a manga. And I don't know why this is the case. And there's maybe some rare exceptions here and there, but that's been the thing for a long time for me. It may be due to my autism, I don't know, but I prefer the medium of anime. I think that it's just a more enjoyable medium, and I can, get emotionally invested in it. I'm telling you right now, I can't get emotionally invested in this series. I'm watching this, I'm not freaked out. Like, the visuals don't freak me out. They don't scare me, they don't concern me, they don't upset me. I'm not, like, put off by it. The only thing that put me off was her cutting off her fingertips, the mom. And that's only because of the act of it cutting off the fingertips. No matter what medium that's portrayed in, it would freak me out just because of what it is, like what's happening. I could read that in purely word form, no visuals at all, would still freak me out because it's about what's happening rather than the actual visual of it happening. You know what I mean? There's just various things that just give me the EWE based on just the concept alone. But like none of the other visuals were like anything to me. Like I felt nothing looking at any of them. Even like the visual of like seeing her eye swirl down the spiral, like it was like going down a toilet or something, had no emotional response to it at all. I made the toilet joke because I was trying to, add something to it. And again, I know this is going to be an unpopular opinion, but it's literally what I do or do not feel like watching this. It's not really something I can help. It's like I don't feel any emotion. I don't feel any attachment. I don't feel any interest or like enjoyment from watching this because it just feels like I'm reading a manga. And I don't get enjoyment from that either. It just feels like if this is what you want from like a Junji Ito anime, just read the manga. Because this isn't an anime. It's not animated. I mean, it technically is. I know it technically is. I'm not saying it's literally not animated, but again, I explained that already. The story of this also, by the way, like I don't think I don't know, did I ever read Uzumaki or see was Uzumaki in the Junji Ito collection? I don't think it was. Honestly, this story was kind of boring, is what I'm getting at here. It's not really that scary. The visuals, like, even if animated well, I don't think would be that bad. It's like this is like very tame compared to other stuff I've seen from Junji Ito. And honestly, pretty much everything, at least mostly everything from the Junji Ito collection was much creepier to me. Again, because of, actually having animation, proper animation, but also it was just creepier. It was a more interesting, creepy story. This was very slow paced, and just seeing like the people like get like go insane from the spirals and everything was boring to me. It's like it was taking so long to get to the point, and I understand you have to build up to things to make it like be interesting, but like the entire time you're like seeing about like the father going crazy and everything and becoming obsessed and all, and it's just like, eh. It just wasn't that interesting from a plot perspective either. It wasn't entertaining. It wasn't creepy. And again, not talking about visuals here. I'm just talking from the concept of the plot and writing and all. Um, Maybe this just isn't my kind of Junji Ito story. Maybe it's just not my kind of horror. But it did nothing for me. And again, that the fact that it's not properly animated, it just didn't help. It didn't help. It didn't. It actually made it worse because it broke my immersion, and it was just really hard to sit through. Like, I've watched many anime, many shows in general that can be pretty boring, but at least like it felt like there was effort put in the visuals and whatnot, whether animated or not, like even live action stuff, it's like, feels like, oh, they put effort into the direction of the visuals and everything here. This, it just, again, it feels like they just tried to make, like, they tried to copy the style so much that they forgot to fully animate it. And it just feels like it's all style over substance. And again, like I said, I know this is going to be an unpopular opinion because, like I've said, I've already seen that people are praising the animation. In fact, I've heard people apparently said that the animation takes a deep drop in episode 2. Obviously, I haven't seen anything from episode 2, but I've seen that people have been saying that, and it's like, how do you go down from this? Unless it's just literally not animated at all. Like, unless you're talking about the art style not looking as polished, but that's not animation. But people are saying animation, so. Because it's like, yeah, the only thing lesser in terms of animation would be if it's not animated at all and it's just still images. That's how little this was actually animated. It's just, this is clearly not for me. Like I said, there was that other Junji Ito series. Let me see if I can find what it was called. I think it's on Netflix as well. Or not as well, but I think it's on Netflix. Junji Ito anime. Japanese Tales of the Macabre. Junji Ito Maniac, Japanese Tales of the Macabre. That's what it's called. Yeah, that was the second one that came out last year. Oh, that only came out last year? I thought that was a few years back. But yeah, I saw Junji Ito collection. I have not seen the Macabre one. Maybe I should check that out, though, because I might end up liking that a lot more than this. But yeah, this just, it didn't do it for me. It didn't do it for me. And again, I know that's an unpopular opinion, but I've said it before. I'll say it again. I don't really care because it's my opinion and it's based off my experiences. I'm not going to lie and say I like it just because it's popular. If I genuinely don't enjoy it when watching, I'm not going to say otherwise just because it's a popular series. I don't like it. I didn't enjoy it. I really did not get invested in it at all. I didn't find it creepy or unsettling or anything. Like I said, I really couldn't feel anything watching this because it just felt like reading a manga, and I don't feel anything from reading a manga. It's just a case of, like, my immersion was broken. I was not entertained in any way, shape, or form. And I just was bored. So, yeah, I'm probably not going to watch any more of this. I might check out episode 2 just to see what this supposed drop in animation was. But this is clearly not a series for me. Maybe I'll check out the Tales of the Macabre one, see if that one's better, check that out on my own time. But I didn't enjoy this pretty much at all. So I apologize for anyone who really does like this. If you like this, that's fine. That's great. I want any series to have an audience. I really support that. And just because I don't like something doesn't mean you shouldn't. In fact, I actually really support people liking things that I don't. But yeah, tell me your thoughts. If you were only here for Uzumaki, I definitely apologize because this is probably not the reaction you were expecting. But again, it's just how I felt when watching it, and after watching it as well. I can't really help that. So I apologize, but hopefully you enjoyed the reaction nonetheless. And if you are here for other stuff as well, I hope you have enjoyed or do enjoy the other reactions that you have chosen to check out here. And there's plenty more on the channel for you to check out as well, including a lot of horror stuff. A lot of horror stuff, especially this month because, it's October. But that all being said, uh, thank you all so much for those who tuned in. And we're going to move into next the final thoughts, the final full thoughts on today's reactions. Okay, and we are here with the final afterthoughts, my final full thoughts on everything. Just as a warning, there will be spoilers to my thoughts on all of the reactions we did today. So if there's anything that you haven't checked out and still want to, please watch that and the corresponding afterthoughts before watching these final thoughts. That being said, we'll begin with spoilers and our final thoughts in 3, 2, 1, now. So yeah, we had a mixed bag this time. Some of these first impression showdowns, we've had like veer more towards the side of, oh, I want to continue these, and some veer more towards the sides of, oh, nothing here really interested me. This one was a mixed bag. A couple of them I really liked, and then 2 of them, not as much to continue on with. So just to reiterate, the ones we are continuing on with in the future are going to be SAO, Sword Art Online Alternative Gun Gale Online, as well as Orb on the Movement of the Earth. Those are the 2 we will continue with. I don't know when it's going to happen. They're just put onto the list. They might come in future randomized wheels that'll determine, future first impressions, continuation reactions. Don't know how soon they'll come, but we will get to those again in the future. As for Trillion Game, I'm deciding to watch that on my own time. I think it would be a show that I would better enjoy, as I can just do it on my own without needing to worry about a schedule, without needing to worry about putting on a specific reaction to you guys. Just watching it on my own time in the comfort of whatever situation I'm at at the moment. But that's the point, the freedom of it. I think it's just better for that situation for me. And Uzumaki, I just did not like at all. It was definitely my least favorite of the bunch. And as I explained in those afterthoughts, was clearly just not for me. Not based on what I look for in an adaptation, not based on what I look for in anime and animation. It is not my kind of thing, clearly. That being said, I think my favorite of this set was surprisingly Orb. Like, I would have thought it was going to be SAO because of, my history with having seen the first season 6 years back, and just the fact that I was really looking forward to it compared to the rest of these, which are more unclear than that in what I was going to think. But that was only my number 2, because Orb really impressed and surprised me. And it's even more impressive and surprising considering the subject matter being about, science and all. But, like I mentioned in those afterthoughts, the basically big fuck you to the church that the series gives, the giant ass middle finger to the church, is fucking hilarious to me, and I love it. It's just like, yes, please. So it's like, do with that what you will. But I explained all of that and why I had that opinion on that and everything in those afterthoughts, so you can get all the information regarding that there. But yeah, so a pretty mixed bag. I mean, mind you, 3 of them I did enjoy. One of them was just to a lesser degree, to the point where I just wouldn't want to react to it. Yeah, this was an interesting set, though. I think this is mostly what I wanted to see out of what I knew was coming out this season. I'm kind of curious about Dragon Ball Daima, but 1, the dub is not out yet. I guess only the first episode of the sub is out. And I will not watch anything Dragon Ball in sub. I just absolutely refuse. It's not even just because of nostalgia. I just don't like the sub voice actors for, like, pretty much any of the characters. Like, I cannot see these characters and imagine, I can't look at Goku and imagine him having a super high-pitched squeaky voice. It makes no sense. or Vegeta. It's like neither of those two should have high pitched squeaky voices, but they do in the Japanese, and I just never understood that. Um, it makes no sense to me. It does not compute, and I feel like it just breaks the immersion for me. And it's like with any Dragon Ball project, I have to watch it in dub. So I'm waiting for the dub on that anyway. But also, I think I'm probably not going to be super invested in that because I'm not a huge Dragon Ball fan. So that's probably something. If I do watch it, I'll watch it on my own. um, I'm a very, very casual Dragon Ball fan. And then there's like I think some others that have come out this season that other people are like praising. Like there was one I think it's called Blue Box or something like that. That's about badminton. And I like badminton. Like that's actually one of those few sports that I actually enjoy playing, and I have no fucking clue why. I don't know why, but hitting the birdie with the rackets is just fun to me. Even though I'm not good at it, I'm not good at it, but it's fun. I always enjoyed badminton, and I don't know why. But it's like I'm not interested in a badminton anime in any way, shape, or form. I'm not a big sports anime person, but it's like I'm just not interested. And then I'm already reacting to Dan Dan, so it's like that one's like separate from this. So it's like I think the only other things this season that I've heard people talking about are like second seasons or continuations in general. So stuff I wouldn't really be able to check out other than SAO being a second season. So yeah, this I think was a good set for the fall season of anime to get to anyway. It gave me a couple that I hadn't even heard people talking about and got me very interested in them. And I got to check out two that I was interested in. One of which everyone's talking about, and is surprisingly the one I don't like in this set. Which really does surprise me, though. I will say that. But I would love to hear your thoughts on all of these, or any of these that you managed to watch, whichever ones you did check out. Let me know, and hopefully we'll get to another first impressions thing some point in the future. I don't know when. Just depends on if there's something I want to check out for that. The next first impression showdown might be a bit away though. I try not to do those too often, if I can help it. Because it's so much recording in one go. And it's lucky I was able to record this today. Like the day you're seeing this pop up, Saturday, I actually recorded it all today because I just had the surprising amount of free time. That's not usual, so recording multiple things for one of these showdowns in one day, along with everything else I normally record when I have the availability to, doesn't usually work out. That's why I don't do these super often. But yeah, hope you enjoyed nonetheless. Let me know your thoughts down below. And for now, I'm Connie, and I'm signing off. See y'all next time.